Hey guys, I thought I'd take a little time out from my day job to explain a little bit of background about this video. We got Hilo Little Mo about 6 months ago, five, yeah, maybe 5 months ago, at the beginning of the summer. And we fell in love with her right away because the style is something we've seen not much of because it's not many were made. You can look into the company high and low if you want, but they're well made and they have a great reputation. And my husband loves the low profile look, the way you can sink it down below the truck bed so you don't get that draft and maybe some of the fishtailing that you might get with other RVs. We wanted to get something that would fit in our yard. It would be a nice little guest room or guest suite when our friends and family come, and also a good escape pod when we do volunteer work with LDC, DRC, etc. So we thought that this was a perfect fit. We went to go see it, and the famous quote we were told when we got it is, "She's solid, mommy." It had drizzled a little bit before we got her, but it had not come a good rain like the day that we actually gave them the money and then pulled it into our yard, which was a chore in itself because I'm terrible at backing up RVs and my husband is still learning. So I've never had anything this big. She's 24 feet long. 1999 borderline 2000 model of high-low. I'm going to put a picture in here so you'll see what she's like. It's basically like a pop-up camper, but when it comes down to about half of its size, all sides are hard all the way around. They're very well made. When we did get her plugged up finally, because we didn't see her plugged because they didn't have an outlet, it was only battery power. Ended up having to replace the inverter, the AC, the everything. But the biggest headache, without a doubt, that we had to handle first was the leaking roof, which, like I said before, it wasn't leaking when we got her. We're not that crazy, but there were like a couple of soft spots, but she's old. But somehow the moving of it and the heavy rain revealed some much bigger problems, as you guys will see. So the first step was to remove all of the damaged wood and to see just how bad the damage was, and to patch up the roof, which we used lots of coats of elastomer. My husband did a very good job with that. It was his first time, but he's a pro now. And patching up holes where we could using waterproof sealed tape. I can attach the links later if you guys want me to. I am no longer Amazon affiliate, so I'm not really that keen on giving them that business anymore, but we get everything on Amazon. So if you really want those links and you need them, let me know and I'll be sure to get them to you. I always check my responses. Like and subscribe, and keep watching. Enjoy her pain and suffering. She's doing a lot better now, but it was 2 long months of waiting for another good rain. After that pour down, we had the summer of Houston, one of the hottest in history, 100 plus real field temperatures for 2 months straight and no rain. So we did not want to put up more wood or paneling until we knew that the leaks were truly fixed. So when the good rain came, then we could finally get our friend in that you'll see in the video, who helped us with the carpentry skills, because I struggle in that department too. All right, hope you enjoyed this. Please leave any comments and questions below, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks again for watching. So after putting a few coats of elastomer on the roof, we started to get the cabinets ready to come down because we couldn't see the water damage behind them, and that had to be repaired. That's where a lot of the leaks were coming in on the corners. So you see, we took down all the light fixtures off of it carefully because we wanted to pretty much go with the same wiring as before, because it was working, but in the same locations, but we just had to get these cabinets down. So we unscrewed what we could by hand, which wasn't a lot, pried off the facing wood, took off the old cable fittings because we're not going to be using that anyway. We stream everything. We just took off the antenna screw up thing, even though we didn't actually take the antenna off the roof because we didn't want to put any more holes in there than necessary. But then taking the cabinets down was interesting because we couldn't even find all the screws to unscrew. Eventually, I thought from some other videos that I've seen before and just past experience with taking down old things that were partially rusted, partially invisible screws, and then glued on top of. We wanted to keep the cabinets intact, so I used a Sawzall and tried to get in between the already damaged ceiling, so we're going to take it down, right? And the screws on the top of the cabinet without damaging the cabinet itself. So that method worked pretty well. Always have another set of hands. My husband's there to catch it as it comes down. Yeah, it took the better part of the entire afternoon to get both sets of cabinets down. So you'll see this one is down now, and you can see the pockets of water. Yeah, it's un hot meso. So as we tear back this wood, or the vinyl on the wood, we're gonna see just how bad the rot is. It does not look good at all. So up until this point, we weren't sure just how extensive the rot was underneath. It's pretty bad. We had to rip back just until it couldn't be ripped anymore. All this stuff is like glued together, particle board, so it really isn't meant to get wet ever. Both sides of the cabinets, we want to save them because we need that storage space. But now we're going in and seeing where the rot is. And yeah, working with that damage accordingly. All the wires were not injured, so that's good. So we'll be able to put these cabinets back up as planned, and you'll see how that works out later on. But the damage is pretty stinking extensive, and I'm not even gonna lie, it was more than a little depressing when we first saw it. Okay, so this is day one of the demolition so far. See all along that seam got rot, so for sure we're gonna have to replace this whole panel from this seam to that seam, which is about the width of one sheet of plywood. So now we're gonna try to rip that down and see how it goes. The cabinets are down. Helpful hubby over there. Other cabinet down. None of this was easy. None of it. We're just cutting to the good parts. Here we see an example of some of the structural damage to the metal that was on the roof. And so why we had to go through and make sure that all of those holes were repaired on top, and then remove all the structures on the bottom so that we could replace that paneling. So all of the studs are metal, fortunately, so that's giving it a lot more support than wood would. Here I took down the crank for the antenna because we're not going to go back with that old antenna setup, even though it is still on the roof, because it just seems safer than creating another hole. So after we took that piece down, we also took off the AC that was mounted to the ceiling because it wasn't working anyway. We decided to go with a window unit. That was a whole process in itself. Some may want to go back with the roof unit. We felt like this was going to lighten her up anyway. And after trying the window unit, it really did cool down the entire place very well. Like I said, it's 24 feet outside. I'm not sure what the exact square footage is inside. But for us, this hot summer, the window unit did as well, even while we were doing construction in it. So we believe any future guests will be comfortable also. So now I'm going to the other side, and we're basically repeating the same thing. Sorry, I did not shift the camera, but we did get all of that paneling down that was damaged. Underneath, we have styrofoam that's been used for insulation. And in some places, it seemed like just the surface of the wood, where it was basically fused together by glue or however they did it, in a way that you cannot replace it. You can't like patch up. Well, I didn't see how we could patch up this paneling in order to make it look like what was up there before. So we decided to just go with two new sheets of plywood or paneling, excuse me, and mount to those metal studs. So the advantage of being metal studs is that we were able to scrape it per suggestion of our friend, the carpenter, and get that rust off so it did not spread. But we didn't have to go about making and replacing wood studs, which would have been rotten, no doubt, from all this water exposure. So that made it a lot simpler. Also, he recommended that we do some kind of mold remediation, and we were not professionals by any stretch of the imagination, but wiped down everything, sprayed it down with mold, anti-mold sprays and disinfectants, and then we went back with a kill spray over it. Fortunately, I don't believe I have any pictures of that, but that was the following steps after letting the ceiling area air out for a bit. It is soaked, you can see it. Then we went back with those two steps of making sure that we got rid of the musty, smelly, and potentially dangerous moldy area. And then we went back with more styrofoam insulation, which is super easy to install, just using the liquid nails glue wherever we could to the surface. And yeah, we just left the wires hanging and ready so that we would have to be able to drill holes to let them down wherever necessary. The bathroom wasn't as damaged, so ended up doing something else with that ceiling. That'll be another video. But here you can see pretty accurately that all of this entire area was going to have to be replaced and repaired. So when we finally got our good rain that we've been waiting for, we immediately jumped into action, taped all of the wires in place where we wanted them to be, got the paneling that we wanted, and our friend came and helped us measure and install it where it needed to be, measuring exactly where the studs were going to fall so that we could hit them with the screws, measuring where the one skylight was come down, and he did it perfectly. And between the three of us, we were able to put it in place and hit it with those screws so that, you see, this was the paneling about the same. I don't want to lie and tell you how wide it was, but it's super thin, which was like the thinness of the thinnest one that they sell, the same thinness as what they had up there before. Put it up there, painted it, as you can see, came back through with the lights, went ahead and tested my wiring. 12-volt wiring is still a little bit complicated for me, even though it's so simple. I had to reestablish the ground to the metal studs because that's a part of the system's plus side, and the negative is getting its ground from that. So one day, basically, or one afternoon, put up the ceiling, and then he was able to come back out and help us using the L brackets where all of those metal studs were, or as many as we could find, to replace the cabinets. So we got our storage back up a couple of weeks later, another afternoon. So it was just one afternoon, 2 afternoons, and this big part was done. Between the time when he was able to come out and help us, of course, painted it and put some of the trim up afterwards. And I'm gonna show you the final product in a bit. Pretty happy with it. My carpentry skills, once again, pretty weak, using little those tack nails, and put it up, and in some places it's glue, but it looks so much better than it did. So much better. And we're so grateful for his help, and that we can move on with the rest of the construction. After the ceiling was done, we were able to move forward finally. I like to use the PVC finishing pieces of wood, and nice and wide. You see there the seam between the former ceiling and the one I painted is really not that big a difference in color. And once the trim is put up there, it looks almost seamless, I think, to the naked eye. You can see there's a slight color difference, but not big enough to bother us right now, at least. And this is the final product. What do you think? We're pretty pleased with it. Stay tuned for further adaptations to Hi La Little Mo. Thanks for watching.